Hello everyone, welcome to Pep Coding. In this video, we are going to look at the fourth pattern. So let's see this pattern. In this question, we have n equals to 5. This is the pattern for n equals to 5. And I have 5 rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, I have 5 rows. In the first row, I have 0 spaces and 5 stars. In the second row, I have 1 space and 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 stars. Okay, so 1 space and 4 stars. In the next row, I have 2 spaces and 3 stars. In the next row, I have 3 spaces. So 1, 2 and 3. I have 3 spaces and 2 stars. And in the last row, I have 4 spaces and I have 1 star. Now you can already see a pattern emerging. We see that the number of stars, let's call this number of stars, are decreasing by 1. Whereas the number of spaces, this is like this, okay? The number of spaces are increasing by 1. So now what we'll do is, we'll check what are the number of stars in the first row, okay? And what are the number of spaces in the first row. The number of stars in the first row are, number of stars in the first row are 5, which is equals to n. So we will initialize our number of stars variable. Let's call this NST. This will represent number of star variables with n. Okay, so NST will be equals to n. Also, the number of spaces are equal to 0 in the first row. So we'll initialize our number of spaces variable with 0. Okay, I hope you understand this point. Now what we are going to do is, at this point, we know how many stars we will start with, and we will know how many spaces we will start with. So let's see what are the rows that we are going to print. We'll follow an approach. Let's call this approach row, work and preparation. Okay, the first thing that we are going to do is print the number of rows. So the row will go from 1 till n. Okay, I'm just writing a pseudo code. You can see that we have number of rows equals to n. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We have 5 rows. So my row will go from 1 to n. Now I will do the work for spaces, because first I have to print spaces, and then I will do the work for stars, because then I have to print stars, and then after I've done my work, I will do the preparation that I have to do. Okay, I will do the preparation. And what is my preparation? The number of stars are decreasing. Let's see. The number of stars are decreasing, right? So the number of stars are decreasing, but the number of spaces are increasing by 1. So the variables that we declared before, the number of spaces and the number of stars, will represent how many stars am I going to print in that row and how many spaces am I going to print in that row. Okay, so in the preparation part, we've handled this part. This part will give me for NST equals to n and NSP equals to 0. If I dry run this, okay, if I start from 1 and as my row is equals to 1, for row equal to 1, then my number of spaces will be equal to 0. Number of stars will be equal to n, which is 5. Let's do this for n equals to 5. In the second row, after the second iteration, the number of stars and number of spaces have decreased. The number of stars have decreased and number of spaces have increased. So the row will be second. The number of spaces will be 1 the number of stars will be 4. Similarly, for r equals 3, we would have number of spaces as 2, number of stars as 3. For r equals to 4, number of spaces as 3, number of stars as 2. For r equals to 5, when r becomes equals to n, for the last iteration, my number of spaces will be equal to 4 and my number of stars will be equal to 1. This is exactly what we want. Okay. In the first row, I'm printing 0 spaces and then 5 stars. And then we have 1 space and then 4 stars, 2 space and then 3 stars and so on. So now let's do the work. What is the work that needs to be done? For spaces, let's run a for loop and let's say I have a count of spaces. Okay, let's call CST, which represents the count of CSP, which represents the count of spaces. This will run from 1 till the number of spaces. Okay, and then I'll print the spaces. Similarly, for the stars, I'll have a CST, which represents the count of spaces. This will run from 1 till the number of stars, and then I'll print the stars. Okay, I hope you understand this code. We will understand this as we code it. Okay, you can already see that. So we already have our scanner. What we have to do is take our input, which is n equals to scn dot next. Now we will have the number of spaces is equals to 0 and the number of stars equals to n. Now we will do the work for rows. So for int row equals to 1, row will go till n and row plus plus. Okay, now let's zoom this. Okay, now I have to do the work for my spaces, the work for my stars, and I have to do the preparation for the next step. So my spaces, so let's call this CSP, will run from 1 and CSP will go till NSP, then CSP plus plus. Okay, and then I'm just going to print the stars, print the spaces here, my bad. Okay, for the stars, I will do the same thing. CST will go till NST, then CST plus plus. Okay, I've printed the spaces, I've printed the stars. Now I have to do the preparation. And what is my preparation? That as my rows increase, my spaces decrease. No, my spaces increase and my stars decrease. So the number of stars decrease and the number of spaces increase. That is the preparation for my next step. And also, as I print every row, I'm going to the next line. So I'll go to the next line. So this is my preparation for the next step. Now this is my code. Let's run this. I have to use SCN here. See, we are getting the right answer. We are getting the right pattern. Let's submit this. See, we are getting the correct answer. I hope you understand this video. Thank you for watching.